the strategic nuclear arsenal in the form of a briefcase to Vladimir Putin. As you can see, the briefcase right there, in an official ceremony at the Kremlin. And that means that, that Mr. Putin is now, in fact, head of the Russian strategic nuclear arsenal. In fact, he's head of all of the security services in Russia, and that makes him the acting president. And he has been very busy. While Russian President Boris Yeltsin has gone to his country residence outside of Moscow and is going to celebrate this millennium quietly with his family, Vladimir Putin, the president, acting president, is now hard at work. He's already had a cabinet meeting, and he is now having a Security Council meeting. He told his government ministers, by the way, that they should not engage in politics right now, that they must get down to business immediately, that there is much to be done. And he is at pains to tell everyone, including the West, that his Russia will be a democratic Russia.
I'm absolutely convinced that if we abide by the principles that have become the cornerstone of our development, a liberal economy, free market, human rights, respect for our neighbors, and respect for our partners all over the world, well, then Russia will be able to occupy a prominent place in the future community of nations, in the next century and in the next millennium. I'm sure that Russia will be a democratic country.
Now, it is his strength that has appealed to so many people. He has been very strong in his actions in Chechnya against what he calls terrorists there, the rebel Chechen leadership down in that breakaway region. And his widespread bombing campaign has caused many people to leave their homes and has caused some civilian losses, although he counters on just how many that is. But those kinds of actions of his have come under criticism, as particularly from the West. But his talk of a strong Russia is very appealing to Russians here. He enjoys widespread support, and he insists to the West that having a strong Russia is nothing to fear.
Russia has only one ambition: to enjoy respect from other nations. And we will surely achieve that. I think that everyone is interested in that, including our partners in the West, because the world has to be well balanced.
Now, the Russian, this new acting Russian president, Vladimir Putin, says that he will continue, as we said, with democratic and free market reforms. He says that he will act and enact some stronger laws. He now has a Duma, a parliament that is much more pro-government. But it is not his words, it is his actions that will be watched before these presidential elections in March. Right now, the date for presidential elections, according to the Constitution, is March 26th. That will be confirmed on January 5th by a Council of Federation meeting, which is scheduled to take place there. But this is a man that the West will be watching very carefully. Vladimir Putin himself, though, did extend an invitation to the U.S. President Bill Clinton to come, and perhaps U.S. officials will want to take up that invitation sooner rather than later. Colleen?
All right, thanks very much, Eileen. And more on that aspect of the story now, Leon.
That's right. Since you mentioned that, let's go now to the White House. CNN's John King standing by there this morning, gauging the reaction to Russian President Boris Yeltsin's resignation. John, what have you heard there?
Leon, just moments ago, President Clinton issuing a written statement paying tribute to what he called the historic tenure of Boris Yeltsin as Russia's first democratically elected president. Mr. Clinton's statement focusing largely on the positive, saying that during Mr. Yeltsin's tenure, some 5,000 strategic nuclear warheads have been dismantled, that the United States and Russia have worked together to remove the nuclear weapons from the former Soviet republics. The statement did, however, note the disagreement over the United States' disagreement with Russia right now over the military campaign in Chechnya, and Mr. Clinton saying that he looked forward now to working with the acting president, Vladimir Putin. Mr. Clinton also has a very close personal relationship with Mr. Yeltsin, despite their differences, and he included a brief personal tribute to Mr. Yeltsin as well. The question now is what to make of Mr. Putin. U.S. officials had a close working relationship with him when he was Boris Yeltsin's national security advisor. They say he has become more rigid since he became the prime minister, but they do view this as an opportunity. Very encouraged by the results of the recent parliamentary elections, in which candidates pushing economic reform did moderately well. They think now that Mr. Yeltsin had been in failing health for some time. Perhaps now with a younger, more energetic Russian president, there will be an opportunity for some progress in this relationship, despite the differences. Obviously, the differences over Chechnya, also an ongoing U.S. federal investigation into Russian money laundering, and finally, U.S. officials noting that Boris Yeltsin, as always, a flair for the dramatic, announcing his resignation on New Year's Eve. John King, CNN, reporting live from the White House.